The Sunday school lesson for December 1st, 2024 is Jesus' Ancestry. Ruth chapter 4, verses 9 through 17, and Luke chapter 3, verse 23, and verses 31b through 32. Welcome, viewers and subscribers, to my channel, The Backstory and More. I am Audrey. If you are interested in knowing what happens before each Sunday school lesson, you are at the right place because I will share the backstory, read the lesson text, and offer a brief lesson summary. Also, please know that every Sunday at 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, I release a new video for the upcoming Sunday school lesson. Thank you for all that you do to help this channel grow one viewer and one subscriber at a time. The backstory takes us to Ruth chapter 4, verses 1 through 8. This is a beautiful narrative about Boaz and Ruth. As Naomi had predicted in chapter 3, verse 18, Boaz wasted no time in arranging to meet with the other guardian redeemer he had mentioned to Ruth. As was customary in the ancient Near East, Boaz went to the town gate, the place where important transactions were traditionally conducted. Boaz gathered 10 respected elders of the town to serve as witnesses for his negotiation with the other kinsmen. Boaz began his negotiation by discussing a piece of land that had belonged to Elimelech. The sale of this property could involve two possible scenarios: that Naomi owned the land but had to sell it due to her poverty, or that Elimelech had sold the property years ago and Naomi needed a kinsman to purchase or redeem it, exercising a right of redemption. Boaz explained his own desire to carry out the role of guardian redeemer, but acknowledged that the other man was more closely related to the family of Elimelech. The kinsman expressed his willingness to redeem the land, but then Boaz supplied one crucial detail: the kinsman must also carry out the responsibility of marrying Ruth. In light of this new obligation, the relative declined taking on the role of guardian redeemer. He was concerned that he would endanger his own estate. In other words, if he were to have a son through Ruth, and if that son turned out to be his sole surviving heir, then his own property would eventually go to the family of Elimelech. Because Boaz was next in line, his way was now clear: to marry Ruth. To seal the transaction between himself and Boaz, the guardian redeemer removed his sandal. This symbolic act is mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 7 through 10, signifying a man's refusal to marry his brother's wife if his brother died without having any children. The removal of one's sandal was also appropriate for any land or property transfer. Both the words and the action of the kinsman confirmed the transfer of responsibility to Boaz. The backstory ends here, and today's lesson begins with the next slide. Verse 9. Then Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, "Today you are witnesses that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon." Verse 10. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as my wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Today you are witnesses. Verse 11. Then the elders and all the people at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your home like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the family of Israel. May you have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem." Verses 12 through 13. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah. So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. When he made love to her, the Lord enabled her to conceive, and she gave birth to a son. Verses 14 through 15. The woman said to Naomi, "Praise be to the Lord, for who this day has not left you without a guardian redeemer. May he become famous throughout Israel. He will renew your life and sustain you in your old age. For your daughter-in-law, who loves you and who is better to you than 7 sons, has given him birth." Verses 16 through 17. Then Naomi took the child in her arms and cared for him. The women living there said, "Naomi has a son," and they named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David. Verse 23. Now Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. He was the son, so it was thought, of Joseph, the son of Heli. Verses 31b through 32. The son of Nathan, the son of David, the son of Jesse, the son of Obed, the son of Boaz, the son of Salmon, the son of Nahshon. A brief summary. All those present voiced their agreement with the decision and added a blessing, asking that Ruth, the woman, be blessed like Rachel and Leah, and also like the family of Perez. Excuse me. This was an appropriate blessing in this particular case because Perez's birth to Judah and Tamar produced a son for a deceased family member, although the circumstances of that conception were nothing like Ruth and Boaz's relationship. Genesis 38. Further, Boaz himself was a descendant of Judah through Perez. In stark contrast to Naomi's desolate situation and feelings of bitterness in chapter 1, the book of Ruth concludes with a portrait of Naomi's great joy as Boaz and Ruth married and had a son. Her reproach as a widow without an heir was erased. Because the child would be the heir of Elimelech and receive Naomi's devoted attention, the women referred to him as Naomi has a son. Though her story began in heartache, now Ruth experienced great joy in her marriage and new motherhood. The name of their son, Obed, means worshiper or server. It seems to be a reference to Ruth's adoption of the God of Israel as her God. Obed would be reared to follow the true and living God and would be his worshiper. Little could Ruth have known that the son born in her would become a living link in the family of David, from which eventually would come the Messiah, Jesus. But such was God's blessing on Ruth. This foreigner in Israel experienced the love and grace of God in wonderful measure, for God chose her to be in the line of ancestry of the Savior of the world. In the story of Ruth, with famine and heartache, and also steadfast loyalty and love, We see the mercy of God at work in the big picture of human history, providing for the salvation of humankind through the lineage of Ruth and Boaz. Thank you so very much for watching. Join me soon for the next backstory and more. Stay safe and may God bless.